Chapter 81 Entering a Room. On the carriage back to the Fan Mansion, there were no outsiders, only Fan Xian, who had a smile on his face, and Fan Ruo, who was snickering next to him. Fan Ruo looked at her brother, trying to hold back the urge to laugh wildly, holding it back very hard, and said with a smile, "Laugh if you want to, what's the point of holding it back?" As soon as these words came out, a burst of extremely fastidious laughter came out of the carriage, so loud that it startled the pedestrians on both sides of the road, and frightened Fuji Zijing, who was guarding the front. What a coincidence of things in this world! Seeing her brother happy, Fan Ruo couldn't help but rejoice for him as well. I didn't realize that the Lin family's young lady would actually be the girl that brother met at the Qing temple. It's a coincidence. Fan Xian scratched his somewhat itchy eyebrows and said with a smile, "In the future, don't call me Miss Lin, call me sister-in-law." Fan Ruo teased him, "You'll only be married in October. Wouldn't it be a bit hasty to call your sister-in-law now? And yeah, you know that Lord Chancellor and the eldest princess both dislike you. Didn't you once think of pushing this marriage?" Fan Xian laughed a little embarrassedly and said, "This is one thing and this is another, nowadays, my brother, but I must marry that woman back. Not to mention Lord Chancellor and Princess, even if that Dean of the Supervisory Academy returned to Kyoto, I wouldn't bother with him." Fan Ruo suddenly asked curiously, "Today is actually the first time I have seen Lin. Sis-in-law." She couldn't help but laugh herself. Although sister-in-law was born clear and beautiful, she's not as beautiful as you described last time. Fan Xian was stunned and asked solemnly, "This is still not as beautiful as a heavenly fairy?" Fan Ruo said objectively, "Not really." Fan Xian thought about it, a bit bewildered, and only said after half a day, "Could this be called a lover's eye?" "Brother, I can probably understand the meaning of your sentence, but where is Shishire's beauty?" Fan Ruo was very studious. Fan Xian was full of Lin family girls at this time, and had long since lost the fine tradition of willingly serving as his sister's mentor over the years, casually fooling around. Shishire is a girl selling tofu in Tanyu Port, very pretty and with white skin. Liar. Fan Ruo became a bit dissatisfied, realizing that her brother's entire being had drifted off a bit since he confirmed that his future sister-in-law was his sweetheart. Fan Xian comforted, "How did I lie to you? When you were a child, you sneaked out of the mansion with me to go to the vegetable market, where she was selling tofu, but you were too young to remember." Fan Ruo was skeptical. Looking back on today's events, Fan Xian was overwhelmed with emotion, whereas this crossing over, this is clearly a romance novel. Miss Lin, whose surname was Lin Wanner and whose nickname was Yi Chen, grew up in the palace and did not have many friends. Her life is somewhat bizarre, so although she knows that her father is today's Prime Minister adults, but there are not too many opportunities to meet with her father, but with her uncle closer, especially 4 years ago, uncle to their own designated marriage. But even the mother was deprived of the right to control their own. But there are some easy and comfortable days, but unfortunately, this kind of day is also too lonely, and Yi Linger is often along with their own brothers and sisters. In the Dingzhou side of the crazy, even in Kyoto, into the palace is not too convenient, so there is not even a person around to talk about their own words. At the beginning of the year, I do not know why Uncle let people will be their own relationship with his father stabbed out. At that time she thought Uncle is ready to embarrass his father, forcing his father to resign, who knows that later on is not such a thing at all, but instead will be 4 years ago shelved the marriage, back on the stage. Surname Fan Xian, the illegitimate son of Lord Fan, the minister of the household department, in Tanyu State. Lin Wanner's lips floated a bitter smile. It seems that the other party is also a bitter person. Since childhood he could not see the face of his parents, just why must he marry him? Could it be that his own identity was just so dishonorable that he had to be haphazardly promised to Fan Xian? I wonder what Fan Xian looks like. Lin Wanner cannot restrain herself to think of that doctor during the day. A hint of laughter surged up to the corner of the lips. Cover the mouth and laugh. That person can be really funny. Actually thought of such a method to mix into the courtyard to know that this is the royal courtyard. The forbidden guards are strict. I do not know how he did it posing as a student of Lord Fei. What a bold person, but she immediately thought that this person came with Miss Fan. Could it be that he has some kind of relationship with Fan? Then he must know about his marriage day with that male son of the Fan house. Since he clearly knows all this, why did he still come to see me? Why did he still say those words to himself? Two blushes on her cheeks like clouds of beauty. Beside the maid who made the bed looked at the county princess reclining on the head of the bed, could not help but be a little dumbfounded, smilingly asked, "Miss," and thought of what happy things. The last 2 days have always seen you smiling for no reason. Lin Wan was a little embarrassed and said, "Can't you laugh even if you smile?" The maid spat out her tongue, and naively walked to the window to close the window. At this time the night was already deep, and it was already time to go to sleep. Lin Wan thought of the last words said by that teenager during the day and whispered, "You go get some incense." The maid thought to herself, "Isn't there more?" But she didn't say anything and went downstairs on her own. Lin Wan walked to the window, her slender fingers resting on the small horizontal wood of the window pane, thinking, to close or not to close. When she thought of the disease she was suffering from, and when she thought that she had already been promised to the stranger named Fan Xian, Lin Wan's heart ached, and her fingers secretly exerted force, closing the window dead center.